Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we've pulled together a stack of sources that, at first glance, they look almost contradictory.
They really do. You've got this, ancient philosophical wisdom sitting right next to the very modern, sort of hard-edged world of daily laws and creative discipline.
Right. And our mission in this deep dive is to try and synthesize all this material, to reveal what we think is one powerful, unifying secret about, well, achievement and meaning.
It's a deep paradox, really. The idea that the most direct, the most efficient path to the profound is to concentrate entirely, consistently on the mundane.
We're talking Robert Greene's daily laws. We've got the sort of battle cries of Stephen Pressfield, and then the wisdom of people like Richard Feynman and G.K. Chesterton.
And we're filtering all of it through this one massive idea.
Which is?
That teaching, and by that I mean the transmission of structured knowledge, is the foundational act. It's what creates all other professions.
And for you, listening, this isn't about a traditional classroom.
Not at all. It's about those consistent, often invisible actions. Mentorship, self-improvement, creation. It's about the deliberate, humble act of just showing up.
That's what ultimately leads to the extraordinary results, right? In
Yeah.
your professional or your personal life.
Exactly. If you want those extraordinary results, you first have to master the ordinary action.
So let's jump right in. Let's unpack the most straightforward statement in our entire stack.
Okay.
If you're out there waiting for that magical spark of inspiration, for the muses to descend on you,
Or for that single genius breakthrough moment.
our sources are saying you have it exactly backward.
Yeah, completely. Stephen Pressfield, he reflects on how hard it is to start any creative work, and he just simplifies the great secret down to its core.
What does he say?
He says, and I'm quoting here, "Put your ass where your heart wants to be."
It's so physical, isn't it? I mean, it just strips away all those romantic ideas about creativity.
It does. It just demands presence. He calls it the secret, and basically says there's nothing more complicated to it than that.
The path to the breakthrough is just a physical act.
Absolutely. The wisdom there is that you can't command the divine. You can't, summon the goddess of inspiration whenever you want.
But you can control your physical presence.
That's it. It's a kind of divine exchange. Want the goddess to show up for you, show up for her.
So if you want to write, you have to actually sit at the keyboard. If you want to paint, you have to stand in front of the easel.
Mm-hmm.
But that feels, I don't know, a little too simplistic. Isn't there a risk of just doing shallow work? If you're just physically present, but your mind is, a million miles away.
That is a fair challenge, but that challenge is precisely where this concept of intellectual yoga comes into play. It connects this modern idea back to ancient wisdom.
Okay, explain that.
Well, think about the principle of yoga itself. We reach the spiritual, that deep interior calm, by manipulating the physical.
The posture, the breath.
The flesh, exactly. The profound is reached most efficiently by concentrating on the disciplined, mundane manipulation of the body.
So the spiritual breakthrough comes after the physical discipline. It's a consequence, not the cause,
Precisely.
that makes the connection to our core thesis, that teaching creates all other professions suddenly snap into focus.
Right. The act of teaching or mentoring or leading, it's a constant, rigorous form of this intellectual and emotional yoga.
I mean, what's more mundane than creating the 50th identical essay?
Or patiently repeating a complex idea for the 10th time. Teachers manipulate the physical chalk on boards, words on screens, bodies in desks, to reach for something spiritual.
The awakening of human consciousness.
Which is transcendent. They aren't waiting for some perfect moment of inspiration to share knowledge. They're just there, consistently applying the structure.
Even when the material is dull or the students are resistant.
And that faithful presence, that consistent showing up no matter how you feel, that embodies the definition of a truly meaningful life.
It's humble, it's real.
And it's constantly connecting with others. So inspiration, it isn't some gift that strikes a chosen few. It shows up for those who are already there, faithfully, physically present at the workstation.
That physical commitment that Pressfield demands can feel.
Hmm?
Well, very immediate and isolating. It's just you and the blank page.
It is.
But what happens when we zoom out? When we realize how small that one effort is in the grand scheme of things?
That's the critical pivot. Once you commit to the mundane action, you also have to master the philosophical perspective, or you'll just burn out.
And this is where Robert Greene's daily law comes in.
Yes. Accept your insignificance. It becomes vital.
This law encourages a meditation that's, well, it's almost terrifying. You imagine shrinking down
Way back.
past your current self back to being a child, an infant, then a cell, then just molecules.
Until you just dissolve into the atmosphere. It's described as a kind of reverse death process. Nothing separates you from the universe.
It forces you to feel your own reality in relation to infinite space and time. You are forced to feel that total dissolution.
That you are infinitesimally small.
But wait a second. If I'm forced to meditate on my own cosmic smallness, doesn't that just lead to paralysis? Or, nihilism?
Why bother at all?
Exactly. Why show up at all if my work is so insignificant compared to infinity?
And that is the beautiful paradox. The Daily Law argues that the realization of this insignificance is precisely what makes you powerful.
How?
We're small, yes, but we are the species that knows we are small.
Ah, I see. So the awareness isn't just some psychological trick. It's the definition of our unique human capacity.
It restores a sense of awe, of connection, and, crucially, it frees you from the tyranny of being too self-important.
Right.
And that capacity to see our own smallness and still choose to act is the engine of all advancement. Look at how Albert St. George defined discovery.
You've seen what everybody has seen.
And thinking what nobody has thought. That unique human capacity operates in that exact gap between our physical insignificance and our mental significance.
So we're microscopically small, but we're capable of these cosmic insights. But let's bring it back to the daily grind. How does this perspective actually make us better at our jobs?
It connects through responsibility, or maybe the lack of it.
What do you mean?
Stanislaw Jerzylek had this brilliant, pointed observation. He said, "No snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible."
Huh. If you cling to that feeling of being insignificant, you can just shrug off your own contribution.
You can. Why bother doing a good job on one lesson plan or one difficult project?
Because you're just one tiny part of this great cascade.
Right. But the persistent worker, the dedicated teacher, they're a snowflake who chooses to show up anyway. They decide to add their little bit of structure and mass to the system.
So accepting your insignificance is what frees you to make that tiny, structured, daily contribution.
Exactly. Knowing it combines with others to create the avalanche, the realization of your smallness liberates you from the pressure of having to be everything.
And lets you focus on the one thing you can control, your presence and your consistency.
And that requires mental strength.
Which, according to our sources, only comes from one place: sacrificing comfort.
Wim Hof's advice here is just so blunt and practical. The mind needs to be your best friend, always prepared.
But you can't have a reliable, prepared mind if you only ever feed it comfort.
No. The primary way to strengthen it is to sacrifice comfort. Uncomfortable situations are the weights you lift to build mental muscle. The rewards always, always follow the sacrifices.
That makes sense, but practically, how do we do that? We are wired to seek ease. How does Hoff say we bridge that gap between the comfort we crave and the sacrifice mastery requires?
By understanding that the discomfort you feel right now is an investment in future stability and power. You have to endure the unpleasant part.
So mastery is just confronting your resistance over and over again.
And sticking with it until the body and mind adapt.
And the result of that relentless commitment, that consistent, uncomfortable showing up, that's where you find the ultimate psychological reward: deep flow.
Josh Waitzkin calls this out so explicitly. He says, deep flow is the ultimate therapy. Therapy is flow.
And that state, where work becomes effortless and time just vanishes, isn't an accident.
Not at all. It's the consequence of performing that intellectual and emotional yoga we talked about, day after painful day.
It's the destination, but the path to get there, to that therapeutic flow state, is, well, it's littered with difficulty.
Which brings in that ancient wisdom from Saadi, who gives us the mental frame we need. Have patience. All things are difficult before they are easy.
You have to accept the difficult phase.
The phase where you feel small, where you doubt the whole process, where you're just deeply uncomfortable.
Before you get competent enough to experience that easy therapeutic flow.
So the commitment isn't to the outcome. The commitment is to that difficult middle part.
And that commitment means we have to embrace the highest calling of learning.
Which is embracing doubt itself.
If we're building mental strength by sacrificing comfort, we have to pair that strength with the courage to question the very foundations we're building on.
It's a crucial balance.
Richard Feynman's plea here is just one of the most powerful points in the stack. He challenged our fundamental human desire for certainty.
He said, permit us to question, to doubt, that's all, and not to be sure.
He argued that certainty just leads to stagnation, to dogmatism.
And ultimately to being wrong. If we're truly dedicated to transmitting knowledge and capability, to teaching, then we have a responsibility to proclaim the value of that intellectual freedom,
To teach that doubt is not a weakness to be feared.
but a tool to be welcomed and discussed and analyzed.
So the lesson of mental strength isn't just about enduring pain. It's about enduring ambiguity and uncertainty while still moving forward with purpose. That's maybe the highest standard of work there is.
And if we connect this consistent, humble labor to the bigger picture, to society, we arrive at G.K. Chesterton's profound observation.
Which is?
Education is simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another.
And the choice for any of us, whether we're a mentor, a parent, a teacher, is what kind of soul are we passing on?
Right. Is it one that's rigid, paralyzed by the fear of being wrong? Or one that has the intellectual strength, forged by sacrifice, to embrace doubt and keep asking questions?
The legacy of showing up to the mundane work, then, isn't about passing on facts.
No, it's about creating independence. And Landers captured this perfectly. The final measure of success for any mentor.
It is not what you do for your children, but what you have taught them to do for themselves that will make them successful human beings.
And that is the final beautiful paradox.
The best teachers, the best leaders, they show up every single day to build the self-sufficiency of others.
Making their own involvement ultimately obsolete. Their work is a continuous transfer of power. They don't foster dependence.
They rigorously empower independence.
And this is why this whole system works across all professions. The lawyer learned critical thinking. The surgeon learned to steady their hands. The programmer learned systematic problem solving.
And all of it was created by someone, somewhere, showing up consistently to the mundane work of transmission and structure.
Exactly. We're looking at this stack of wisdom organized around constant, repeatable effort. Today might be day 364, December 30th.
Meaning tomorrow the calendar resets, back to the beginning.
But the work of showing up continues.
The profundity comes not from a single moment of genius,
But from the accumulation of all those seemingly small, ordinary moments. A concept patiently explained, a standard maintained, showing up even when progress feels completely invisible.
This is the great secret.
The profound reached through the mundane.
We've covered a vast amount of ground very quickly, so let's try to distill this deep dive into 3 core takeaways about the architecture of achievement.
Let's do it.
First, the path to the profound requires consistent physical presence in the mundane. Forget inspiration. Focus on presence. Put your ass where your heart wants to be.
I love that.
Second, recognizing our cosmic smallness paradoxically grants us immense human power and significance. It frees us from that crippling self-importance so we can actually get on with making our small contribution. And third, mental strength is forged by sacrificing comfort and embracing doubt as a core part of learning and growth. Difficulty always comes before ease.
So we learned that deep flow is the ultimate therapy. And given that the work of learning and growth is never really finished, it just resets daily, like the calendar rolling over from day 364. Here's a final thought. What single mundane act are you willing to commit to every day? Not for some massive, abstract future outcome, but purely for the therapeutic state of deep flow it provides in the present moment.